Hello, everyone. I'm Melinda from the Acasus recruitment team, and welcome to our monthly podcast session. Today, I'll be speaking with two of my colleagues who had the exciting opportunity to relocate and change their project countries within Acasus. Please welcome Shehzad Shareef, project manager currently in Nigeria, and Saad Rehman, senior data analyst in Hungary.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Melinda, for having us.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here, and thanks, Melinda, for having us.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. I'm sure all of our listeners would like to get to know you better before we start. Could you please introduce yourselves and share what inspired you to join Acasus?
Sure, I'll go first. I'm Shehzad. I work as a project manager at Acasus, where I lead our work on routine immunization and primary healthcare in Sokoto, which is one of Nigeria's northern states. My work primarily focuses on helping vaccinators reach communities that haven't yet been visited and improving the overall quality of primary healthcare services at the facilities. On what really inspired me to join Acasus, I had always been passionate about making a difference in my community. And during college, I interned and worked with several non governmental organizations, but I found that the typical pace of the work and the culture didn't really inspire me. At the same time, I was drawn to the idea of being part of a small, high performing team that really makes a difference. That's why, fresh out of college, I chose to join Acasus, where some of my seniors from college were already making strides. And it was the perfect mix of meaningful work in the development sector and the fast-paced, growth-oriented environment that I was looking for.
Thanks, Shehzad. I can go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Saad, and I currently working as a senior data analyst at Acasus. I've been with the firm for a bit over 3 years now, and I'm currently leading our analytics teams and our data efforts for Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. So the output that my team produces are mostly dashboards and mapping analytics, and the goal is to inform both our consulting teams and government stakeholders to make more data-driven decisions on the state of immunization in their countries. Similar to Shehzad, in terms of inspiration, what really inspired me and what I was always passionate about was working with a strong sense of purpose. I wasn't very clear on what that would be, but that was just what I wanted to do after graduating from university. And my education and my background was always geared towards analytics as well. So when the opportunity to join Acasus came along as a data analyst, I felt there was quite a good match. At the time when Acasus was hiring for my role, there was no existing analyst. So this would be a first for the firm as well, since it was growing and it realized there is a need for dedicated data personnel to support the consulting teams. So while there were a lot of unknowns for me in terms of how the career path would look like, I genuinely thought the opportunity was too good to not go for. So I was very eager to take up the challenge and carve my own path in the firm.
Thank you both. That was really interesting to hear. Sounds like you each found a great fit between your skills and the kind of impact you wanted to make. To kick off today's discussion, I would like to better understand, how did you feel when you first learned about the opportunity of getting to move to another country? What were you excited about? What concerns did you have?
Yeah, I can take this one first. I think I was definitely excited to hear about the opportunity, but it was also it also brought a lot of nerves as well. I've always loved traveling for a long time, and this would be my first opportunity to go to Europe. And the idea of living in Budapest and experiencing the whole new culture that would bring felt quite huge. So, apart from the concerns like adjusting to a completely different environment compared to something like Pakistan, and the language barrier considerations that I was told from people who are already living in Hungary. And the biggest one of all, being away from friends and family, it still seemed like a pretty good opportunity. Apart from that, this is specific to people traveling out of Pakistan, but there were also a lot of concerns of the viability of my move as well. These concerns did end up, unfortunately, becoming reality because the move was not as straightforward as we initially imagined, and it ended up being a grueling 9-month process instead of a 3-month process, which we initially estimated it to be. But despite all of that, I think it was an incredible opportunity to step out of my comfort zone and grow both professionally and personally.
Unlike Saad, my process was much faster, so I was pleasantly surprised when I found out about the chance to move to Nigeria. But I was also really curious around how I could use my skills to overall improve the scale of the impactful work that we do, and also test out my own skills in a totally different place. And the idea of starting and leading a completely new project from scratch in a new geography was really exciting. Although I did feel a bit nervous around the beginning, wondering if my skills would be really helpful there or not. However, I found everyone from the Nigeria country office and the rest of the teams to be super helpful and supportive, because of which I've had a wonderful experience so far.
Sounds like it was a mix of excitement and nerves for the both of you. Relocating is always a big step, but it seems like it's been rewarding. What were your first impressions and first weeks like? Any surprises? How has this change affected your daily routine or work and lifestyle?
Great. I think I can go first on this one too. I think in the first few days, I was just in awe of how pretty Budapest was as a city. I could remember the number of times in the first few days I would just look at a random cafe or a random building and see architecture that I think should belong in a museum. But even though I'd seen the city a few times on TV and in movies, but experiencing these sites in person was something else entirely. I think one expected benefit of the move was that the rest of the analytics team was already based in Budapest. So me moving here just and occupying the same physical space just made coordination and communication so much easier. Another welcome surprise was the difference in approach to work in the Budapest office compared to Pakistan. Things aren't as fast paced, and people generally take a bit more time to work on the project deliverables that they have ongoing. So I think all of that resulted in a much bigger improvement in my work-life balance. And what this shift allowed me to do as well was also take a step back and think about the work we do in the analytics team at a deeper level. So it opened up new avenues for me to think deeper and try out more innovative approaches rather than just being bogged down with deliverables all the time. So I think that has been a big plus as well.
Yeah, similarly for me, the first few weeks were really exciting because we had just started out the new project in a state where we hadn't worked before. So there were lots of meetings with local stakeholders and a lot of field visits. Um, in terms of one thing that surprised me was how similar both Nigeria and Pakistan are in terms of the landscape and the overall everyday experiences of the people. And I think that was something that really helped me gel in the environment and also almost sort of feel at home. Um, and in terms of the impact on the routine, I think just because of the very frequent weekly travel between the states, it did quite have a huge impact on my weekly routine. However, um, since I love traveling and exploring different places, I really enjoyed the whole process so far.
It's great to hear how quickly you both adapted, and I love those little surprises that make a place feel more familiar or even completely new. How has relocating influenced your personal and professional growth so far? Have you faced unexpected challenges or discovered new opportunities?
Yeah, for me, living in Nigeria has been a great opportunity for both personal and professional growth. It's really helped me become more resilient at working in challenging contexts. That's what I would say. But one of the best parts was not just getting involved in the project implementation work, but also being able to teach this work to newer team members and also helping them succeed while building a strong team culture. And I think that's one of the biggest value additions in my professional growth so far.
Yeah, for me, unlike Shehzad, I think the resilience part actually went down for me because moving from Pakistan to Budapest was a bigger change in the sense that I wasn't going on the field anymore, like I was with the Pakistan consulting teams in more security compromised areas. But I think in terms of new adjustments, just adjusting to a completely new city and culture has made me a lot more independent because I'm now living on my own completely and then also more adaptable. I've also had a huge amount of exposure to meeting people from different backgrounds and nationalities. And I think the amount I've met in just the last few months has been more than I had met throughout my entire life before moving to Budapest. Um, I think one of the biggest personal struggles I've had by far has been adjusting to the language barrier, which I had an expectation of, but not to this extent. For the most part, it doesn't really affect the work I do because all of the clients, as well as people within the Budapest office, communicate in English. But navigating the city and interacting with people in random stores or restaurants can always be challenging. And I always have to pray Google Translate works expectedly during those conversations. But professionally, just having the chance to talk to and learn from my colleagues and being in person with them has been a very positive change. I think collaboration is much smoother now, and it goes both ways. I've been able to manage my team more effectively as well, just by interacting with them, getting to know them better, and being in the same time zone as them. So I think the alignment has made a big difference in how we work together as a team overall.
That all makes a lot of sense. A move like this definitely brings challenges, but also a lot of personal development and hopefully fresh perspectives on the work as well. So, what were the biggest takeaways from this experience? What advice would you give to people considering a similar move?
For me, I think it would be that moving out of what was comfortable for me and making a few personal sacrifices, like being away from friends and family you've known your entire life. It can be worth it if it brings along the immense amount of exposure and learning that the move did for me. I think international experience in general, wherever it is also a great plus for your career. It just makes you more diverse in terms of your portfolio. And I'd advise anyone facing a similar situation to take that plunge if they have the opportunity to do so. Though I would add that moving out of a country, any country, but especially countries like Pakistan, does require a lot of patience. Visa issues and travel restrictions, things of those sort, can cause a lot of panic. But as long as you have a solid support system in terms of both people who are around you and your employer as well, then those challenges are easily overcome. And I think it's definitely worth it as well.
Yeah, I have a similar sort of experience, and in terms of the work, the biggest learning for me has been around how to strike the right balance between pacing the implementation work and also taking almost everyone along in the process. And in our line of work, as we are often supposed to advise and guide the stakeholders, and it really genuinely helps to involve the right people in the process of building the solutions to smooth out the implementation steps. However, one of the most effective ways that I've found in terms of rallying the people around an idea is to get started with the work and show the progress, because the citizens cannot wait for months and years to get these basic services that we are working on. And one piece of advice that I would give to someone considering a similar move is to, as Saad mentioned, is to be patient during the entire process. And it might require some sacrifices in terms of your general comfort, but in the end, the overall exposure and the learning is completely worth it.
Great advice from both of you, especially around patience and stepping out of your comfort zone. Definitely helpful for anyone thinking about taking a similar leap. And finally, the question that we always end our sessions with: what were your best memories with Acasus so far?
I have a lot of those, but I will choose one of the recent ones from my stay in Nigeria. One of the most memorable moments was when the entire team went on a field visit with a vaccinator to a remote community in Sokoto. And at one point, we had to drive through a sandy area because there were no proper roads. And eventually, our car got stuck in the sand. So we had to work together with some of the local community members to push it out. Eventually, we did reach the community, and we saw children getting vaccinated and had a lot of meaningful conversations with the vaccinator, the community members, around what challenges they were facing and overall ideas that they had to improve the services. For me, reflecting back, I think it ended up being a moment for team bonding, and as well as a moment for all of us to come together to witness how our work really impacts the citizens. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I have a similar heartwarming example as Shehzad did, since my work is mostly behind the scenes on a computer screen producing a lot of analytics. But I think among a lot of memorable moments, including the move, which has substantially changed my life, would be definitely during my first 6 months in the firm, when I was working on the COVID-19 project in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in Pakistan. I think during that time, since the early stages of the pandemic, it was quite relentless, and a lot of lives were on the line. And a team of 2 consultants and I were working tirelessly and pulling long nights to provide analytics that helped the health department of the time mitigate the spread and reduce the death toll as effectively as possible. So the responsibility for fresh grads doing such work was quite immense, and we felt the pressure as well. But I think it was during this time, and especially us pulling through together as a team, that so early in my career, I truly felt like I was part of something much bigger than myself. And we were actually moving towards changes that were affecting lives. So along the way, I think I also ended up making some of my closest friends through our sleepless work together. And I'm happy to have them as one of my closest friends as well during my life right now.
Those are two very different memories, but both so impactful. It's always nice to hear how meaningful those moments can be, whether in the field or behind the scenes. Saad, Shehzad, thank you for taking the time to share your experiences with us, and thank you to everyone who has been listening. For more podcast episodes, visit our Spotify channel under the name Acasus Podcast, and don't forget to follow us on social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. We'll be back soon with the next podcast episode. Stay tuned, stay safe, and take care.